How we doing? Hey, that's better. Hey, if you have a Bible, turn to Matthew chapter 9. What we're doing today is we're going to start a new series, and this series is only going to be 3 weeks long. It will only be 3 weeks long. I was short a week on the last series, so I'm getting better. Just wait until we jump into, I don't know, I think we're going to do 1 Corinthians, or maybe we'll do Matthew, or maybe we'll do Leviticus. One of those, right? Did we hear, all Scripture is breathed out by God and profitable, right? So, it is good. It's hard sometimes, but I don't know where we're going to go next. It's kind of that weird time of season we're going to have in a few weeks. Just to let you all know, heads up, on Labor Day weekend, we are going to do our breakout session that we did a few months ago, where we have the 3 different classrooms set up, and Pastor Kurt, Pastor Dan, and myself will be in each one of the classrooms, and we'll have a good time. This time, we're going to let you know who's in each classroom, so you can avoid the loudmouth. Although you weren't able to avoid him last time we did this, because his voice carried through the walls. Maybe we'll put him downstairs. Just saying. But no, it's a weird time. We're gonna a weird time of year, because we can't really start something because we got so much going on, and then before we know it, it's going to be Advent. Like, can you believe the Randolph Fair is going to be starting here in a little over a week? Who's excited? County Fair time. Rough truck, derby, tractor pulls, all that good stuff. Yeah, what? Pork potatoes, gyros, cupcakes. Stromboli. Yeah, it's something to look forward to, right? So now that we're thinking about food, what we're going to talk about today is being fed as well. We're going to be talking about the harvest. We're going to be looking at Matthew chapter 9, verses 35 through 38, and we're going to take 3 weeks to do that. All right? We're only going to look at a couple verses today, but this series, what I want to do is, I expressed this maybe last week, maybe the week before, whenever it was, that one of my prayers to God is, when Habakkuk was praying, how long, oh God, is that how long, oh God, are we going to be the size of church in which we are? How long, oh God, are we going to be not being able to do things that we really want to do? How long, oh God, is this ministry going to feel like it is dragging? And I didn't say that, and I don't say that to put a heavy burden on anyone. I was honest in that moment, and I hope you think that I'm honest all the time. Most of the time I'm honest, unless you're wearing an ugly shirt and I have to say, "Hey, nice shirt, Greg." But anywho, we won't go there. But in saying it, not today. It doesn't have not today. That's a great shirt, Greg. I love it. But I don't want to get into this idea or this mindset. I know that some of you might have grown up in church, and you hear the pastor saying we need to get more people, and now what's going to happen? We're going to get beat over the head with, we got to bring more people to church. And here's the deal. I'm not looking to put a burden on anyone, and I don't believe that that's the way in which we should grow the church. The way in which we should grow the church, and the way in which I truly hear this from the bottom of my heart, the way in which I want us to grow the church is that there's a deep, deep conviction, a passion, a love that's just like, man, I want to see my friends and my family. I want to see people that I know that don't have hope. That I know that they struggle with things, and I know that they need Jesus, and out of that's what we want to build the church. And that's, I believe, how God, when Jesus says, "Upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it," upon the truth of Christ and upon what He has already accomplished. And what He has accomplished is the only thing that can overcome Satan, sin, and death. And the only thing that can reconcile relationships and restore homes and restore lives. So the aim of this series, and I think I put it in your notes there, but the aim of this series is really to recover the missionary identity of every Christian by learning to see the harvest as Jesus sees the harvest and accepting our place within it. You're going to hear me say over and over and over again that the harvest is plentiful. Why am I going to say that over and over again? Anybody know? Because Jesus says it, and it is. Absolutely. Both are true. But the question is whether we will see it and believe it and enter into it. So over the next 3 weeks, please don't hear me, and you're going to hear me say this throughout. Please don't hear that I'm saying, y'all need to do better. That's not the point. The point is that our hearts need to be changed, and as we're going to see what Jesus models for us, we're going to see like where this all comes from. So today, what I want to do is I want to just look at Matthew 9:35 and 36. Those are the two texts that I'm going to read, and then we will jump into this whole thing. Who's excited about a new series besides me? A couple people, thank you. I paid them. Verse 35, and Jesus went throughout all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing every disease and every affliction. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. I'm going to stop there because I want us to look at our big idea for today. Because our big idea is that we will never be moved towards people with the gospel until we see them like Jesus does. Like this is like the whole crux. Is we can think that we see people, but really what we're doing is looking. We look and we can, there are people in our vision. What do I mean? Well, let me ask you this. Don't answer this out loud, but answer this to yourself. Some of you are probably going to be overachievers like my wife, but she cheats all the time. She gets into my notes and she makes sure that she knows all the answers before we come in on Sunday. But the person that hands you your coffee, if you go to the same coffee shop all the time, what's their name? Well, how about this? Better yet, what's happening in their life? What is going on? Now, I don't want you to think that because I'm asking this question and you're like, well, I really don't know what her name is, or I really don't. I don't want anybody to think just because you don't know somebody's name, I'm not saying that you're a bad person. Because again, I don't want to heap this up on you. I want you to have a burden for the lost or burden for people, but I don't want you to feel so burdensome that you're going to walk out here like, oh man, he's in one of those church growth strategy books again, must be. Or no, what I want us to do is I want us to understand that people are people, just like you's people, right? You is people, right? Show be, right? So what I want us to understand is like our eyes just have a tendency of going through the motions. It's kind of like you walk in your house and you go through and you do this and you do that, but then you have somebody over there and they say, hey, when are you going to get this door fixed? It's been like how many years and this pantry door? I know, Shannon, just chill. It's not on. You haven't. I mean, our eyes get. They say you can get nose blind to smells, right? I think we can get blind to things that are people that are in our lives all of the time. We can be surrounded by people, but our eyes stop working. And why is that? Well, because looking is automatic. What do I mean? You just look around. All right, look, I'm looking at Maccabee. He's bored out of his mind already. It's okay. It'll get better. But we look around. What do we say? Oh, I see people. No. It's not the seeing which Jesus is talking, because seeing costs something. When you can look at someone, but you go deeper than a look. You know their name. Here I'm gonna give you my little story. Some of you know, some of you don't. The guys and I, when I say guys, I'm Pastor Kurt, Pastor Scott, Pastor Jason, and Pastor Randy. A lot of pastors. We call it the Dunkings, right? We all meet at Dunkin'. You ever hear Dunkings? Oh, my goodness, great. Are we awake? I know, it's summer. We got to get outside. Now, but listen, we all get together every Wednesday, and we have our little gripe session about y'all. And not really. It's. I'm joking. Whatever. You guys are like rough this morning. Anywho, but we go to Dunkin' all the time, and I can tell you this, that I don't just look at the people behind the register. I can tell you their names. Well, you know why? Because I'm a pastor, and that's what I do, right? I'm supposed to do that. No, it's not that. No, I know their names. Why? Because I decided to ask them. I wanted to not just get my coffee and go about my business. Is that I want to see people as Jesus sees people. I want to interact, and I want to understand why. Man, okay, why is Chica? I'm not going to give you all the names, but why is Chica in a bad mood? And Shannon will be like, well, you know, her boyfriend did this, or well, you know, the manager's this way. I get it. Life happens. Now, I'm not that same way at the gas station. I'll be honest with you. I go to the same gas station pretty much all the time. I don't know anybody's name in there. Why? Because I haven't decided to, what? No. I don't know the name. I mean, same guy here, same eyes, but I hadn't made that decision. I haven't decided to take that step and to go beyond looking, which is automatic, to seeing, which is something would cost something. I think that if we look at verse 36 in Matthew chapter 9 here, where it says that when he saw the crowds, we're talking about Jesus, when Jesus saw the crowds, there was something different about, it wasn't just his optical vision or whatever. He wasn't just seeing something that was an image. No, there was something deeper than that going on. I don't think the question is that we need to ask is, are there lost people around us? Are there people around us, I'll put it this way, are there people around us that lives are going to hell in a handbasket? And are there people around us that lives are very evident that they need Jesus? That shouldn't be a question in which we should ask. I think that we see that, we can see that, but the question is, do we see them? Now, again, this isn't guilt. This isn't like, okay, we're going to start a new program. That's not what I want us to accomplish here today. What I want us to accomplish is seeing like Jesus sees. So in verse 35, when it says that Jesus went through all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing every disease and every affliction. I know that in and of itself, we could go on for weeks and weeks and weeks and explain how God still teaches us. He still is proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom through us. He's still healing to this day. But I don't want us to focus on that. What I want us to focus on that is that Jesus went. You see it? He went. He didn't set up shop, and he didn't wait for people to come to him. He went to them. That first verb in the sentence, that went like this, what did he do? He went and he taught. But not only did he teach, it says that he proclaimed. What's the difference between teaching and proclaiming? Well, it says he healed. Well, what's the difference between all this? Jesus focused on the body by healing, right? The body, the soul. We see here the soul, think of the psyche, the mind, through teaching. But the proclaiming, the spirit, man, we got the trifecta here. What does this mean? It means that Jesus cares about the whole person. Do you think that Jesus cares about your whole life? Or just little bits and pieces of it? All of it, thank you. I'm going to come over here and talk to you the rest of it. No, but understand that what Jesus is doing here is as he's going through these villages, these cities, he's not going to these major population centers. He's not skipping the small towns. He's not skipping Atwater or Edinburgh or Randolph or Deerfield. He's not skipping these places. He's going to these places, and as he's going to these places, he's teaching, he's proclaiming, he's healing. Why is he doing that? Because that's where real ministry happens. We don't have to think that well, you know, the size of the place really is the measure of the ministry. If we have a ministry in Akron or Cleveland or Youngstown or whatever big city, Canton, then we really have a ministry. No, that's not what Jesus is saying here. That's not what Jesus is modeling here. He's modeling that he goes to these places. He goes to these hick towns like Atwater. Any of you offended by that? Well, you should be. Bunch of rednecks. But he went. Understand this, that the mission of God has always moved toward people. God's mission has always moved. Even when Adam and Eve sinned in the garden and they tried to hide from God, what did God do? Come out wherever you are, right? No, it says that God came and he walked in the garden. We see that in Egypt when the Israelites were in bondage and slavery, God came and he set them free. We see throughout, we were just in the Habakkuk series, but the prophets of the Old Testament, God sent these prophets to the people. Well, how about this? This is a line that you've probably heard many times if you've grown up in church. Even if you haven't, if you watch football, you've seen the drunk guy with the sign, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only son," right? Like he sent Jesus. Jesus came. What does this have to do with us? How does this really stir us up? Because right now all I feel is bad, Pastor. Well, if you're feeling bad, I don't want you to feel bad. I want us to feel a burden for people. Not a burden like, oh, crap, now I got to go home and I got to do this because if I don't, I'm going to get in trouble. I don't know if has anybody ever gotten in trouble by me, outside of Gabe, but anybody ever got in trouble by the pastor? No, there's this perceived notion that you feel guilty that you know that you need to do something. We were just talking about it up here. I won't go into the details of what we were talking about up here in the worship team. But you know what you need to do. You know that something is good for you. You know that it is healthy for you. But you're like, I'm going to go do something else. None of y'all would do that. It was just Zach and his stubbornness. Come on, Zach. No, but that's what we have a tendency to do. Now, let me tell you this. Here's my own self-implication. I can fill the week with ministry, with counseling, with study, with all of this stuff, and never do what Jesus did in verse 35 here. And I can say, hey, look how good I am. I've been busy. Anybody in here been busy? Busy. Ain't nobody got time for that. Well, that's not what Jesus says. It says that he went. I can take my schedule and pile it all up, and at the end of the week, somebody's like, well, what'd you do this week? Well, I had this appointment, I had this counseling, I did this study. Ooh, I learned this, and I did this. But they can ask, but where did you go? It says that Jesus went. Why do I say that? Because too often what we have a tendency, God bless you, too often what we do is we have this tendency that we think that the church building is a net. What do I mean by a net? We think that people are going to walk by and we're going to throw this net and then we're going to catch them and draw them in. No, the church building is not a net. The church building is a base of operation. The church building. Notice how I'm saying the church building, not the church, because we are the church. The church building is this place in which we come, which we are fed, in which we are equipped. But then we're also sent back out. Why? Because I don't want you here all week. The honest truth is, like, I'm not here every day. Believe it or not, I don't live at this place. We are to be out and about. We are to be in at our jobs, in our families, with our friend groups, at our local whatever, your favorite pub or your favorite winery, whatever. I mean, just at moderation, be careful. But we need to be in these places. Why? Because no one is going to get reached by a church that's just waiting. Don't answer out loud again. But do you think that might kind of hit us a little bit? When I say us, remember, I'm the drunk guy at the football game with a big foam finger, and this time it's like us, yeah. We can't wait. What we need to see is this first step. And what we also have to understand is that proximity, just being in proximity. Oh, I'm going out. Okay, it's not just proximity. There's got to be engagement that takes place. Look at verse 36 when it says, Jesus saw them. It says, when he saw the crowds. Now, this is where I really want us to kind of wrestle a little bit more and more with this looking versus seeing, because remember, we can look and it's automatic, but seeing, it costs something. Here it says Jesus, he saw the crowd. Let me tell you this. If you were in that crowd, you would say, everybody saw the crowd, right? If you were to look around this room, you're like, yeah, there's people here. No. That's not what happened. Jesus saw the crowd. It's kind of like when my kids were growing up and they were talking about boyfriends, girlfriends, stuff like that, and it's like, do you like them or do you like them? Ooh, I really like your mama. Ooh. No, it's not that Jesus saw them. Come on, some of you are like, that's kind of free. Yeah, I know, it grosses Gabe out every time. How do you think you got here, buddy? But Jesus, get your minds out of the gutter. We're married. Jesus saw them. Now, there's a trap. In this sermon right now, there's a trap. And I want to make sure that you don't get snapped in the trap like the rat did this morning trying to get my chickens. But I got that sucker. Yeah! And I threw his butt out on the train tracks. But there is a trap. There's a trap because I can go through this and you can hear this like, oh yeah, I need to pay closer attention to people. No. That's not what how Jesus saw. Because, wait a second, it says they saw the crowd. Like, how can you really see someone if you don't pay closer attention? If it's just about paying closer attention, then the Pharisees would have been the best evangelists of the time. We see it in verse 34. You don't have to turn there, but right before all of this took place, right before Jesus went to these cities and villages, it says that these Pharisees, who were the ones who saw everything, they were so aware of what was going on. They were so in tuned, they thought, paying such close attention that they said that Jesus was casting out demons by the prince of demons. So why do I say that? Because if it's just paying closer attention, the Pharisees would have had it. Because they would have been the most observant in Israel. Why do I say that? Well, because they're the ones that said, wait a second, Tom, and Ben, you did this wrong, and you did this wrong, and you did this wrong. Oh, we know what Greg has done wrong, right? A lot. No, but they're the ones that they were looking hard to find the faults. But they're paying attention. Them seeing, as they would say, it just was contempt. Like, hear me when I say this, like, seeing is necessary, but seeing is not neutral. You can look closely at someone that you know is lost. And you've done this. You've probably done this within the last few minutes or days, or I don't know. But you can look closely at someone who's lost and come away angry. Hold that for a second. Many Christians have done that, by the way. We're going to come back to that in a minute. But I want you to see what Jesus actually saw. Because when it says that he saw them, it says that he had compassion for them. We'll hit that in a second. But it was because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Now, when we think of harassed, some of you might jump to this conclusion, this understanding of kind of like what I do with Jake. Like I harass Jake. No, that's not harassment. That's just playing. That's just fun. That's just brothers being brothers, right? Harassment here, in what this means, is being torn up. How about being flayed open, mangled? This is not just had a rough week. A little bit beyond that. And when it says helpless, this is not just like, hey, I got a flat tire, I need some. No. Helpless, this means thrown down, cast aside. Someone who has no strength to rise on their own. So when Jesus sees them as harassed and helpless, understand this. This is a fun fact here. Both of these words in the original here are passive. What do I mean by passive? Meaning that these things were done to someone else. It wasn't what they were doing to themselves. Now, does that mean that Jesus was naive about their sin? No. No. Is that Jesus chose to look at them by what had been done to them, not by what they have done. Again, he's not naive about their sin. But the way in which the Pharisees would look at him would be like, oh, they made their own bed, they got a lie in it. No, Jesus was tore up. He was just devastated over this. He was moved to compassion here because of what had been done to them. Now, I don't want us to miss this fact because I'm sure in a group like we have here, there's many of us who have probably had things that done to us. People have sinned against us. And what Jesus is saying here is he sees that. But not only does he see that, but the cause that what ensues from that. He says that they're like sheep without a shepherd. Now, when you think of sheep without a shepherd, you might be thinking, oh, yeah, there's little lamb out in the pasture just frolicking around. Right? No? Are you still with me? A gyro? Oh, man, because I was talking about the fair and everything. No, but a sheep without a shepherd. Understand this. This is not gentle. This is actually a very powerful statement that Jesus is making. All of Israel, everybody would have known what was going on here because what we have to understand is that a sheep without a shepherd is dead. Absolutely. They starve. They're scattered. They get eaten by wolves. A sheep without a shepherd is going to die. This is what Jesus sees. And he's saying, this is not right. But what also is going through Jesus' mind is he's thinking about what the Old Testament talked about these shepherds. Not only Moses talking about it, and the prophet Micaiah talking about it, but Ezekiel talks about shepherds. And in Ezekiel 34, it talks about how there's these shepherds that they're just feeding themselves and they're letting the sheep just go astray. And God's response to that, he says, I myself will search for my sheep and will seek them out. I will set up over them one shepherd, and he shall feed them. So we're back here to Matthew 9, and when Jesus says this is what Jesus is saying, like, he's standing in the middle of the crowd, knowing that these are sheep without a shepherd, and he's saying, guess what? Who has two thumbs and is the good shepherd? This guy. That's what he's saying. He's the answer to the problem in which they have. This isn't through analysis. He wasn't analyzing the situation here. What he did here is that this isn't an assessment either. Well, okay, we're just, all right, Mary has done this, and, Teresa's done this much, and we know what Stephanie's done again, like there's this much. He's not assessing all of this. It says that he sees this, and what happens is something inside of him happens. And this is where I want us to truly get and to hold on to, and to not only know in our head, but remember, he taught it, but also he proclaimed it, to know in our spirit. Is this understanding that he had compassion for them. I don't think I need to ask this question because I really don't want your answers. But compassion, do you have it? Do you know what it means, really? Because I believe that religion has ruined the word. This word is not just, sympathy. This is not that ooey gooey commercial that makes you feel sad on TV, whether it's the puppy dogs or whether it's the starving children. You have to hurry up and go click the channel and go through it before you, I don't want to watch that. That's not what I'm talking about, compassion. When it says that Jesus felt compassion, that word that is the root word for that in the original Greek, it means guts. What do I mean, guts? Not the heart from the Hallmark greeting card. No, it means the bowels, the inner parts. There was something that just stirred up inside of Jesus. That same type of stirring, like, oh man, like I feel for these people. Maybe some of you have had, I don't know, maybe a phone call at 2:00 in the morning that is like, oh, you have that same type of, oh man, or you hear about somebody's child, something happened, and you're like, oh man, it's not like you just feel bad for them, but something inside of you is just like, oh, that hurts. And it provokes more than just, I'll just pray for him. No, this feeling, this compassion, it got down into his body. Now, when Matthew uses the term compassion elsewhere, he talks about how compassion does a lot of things, and how compassion is something that never sits still. It talks about how when Jesus has compassion, how he heals the sick. But not only that, when Jesus has compassion on even a larger crowd, he feeds them. Or when he has compassion on blind eyes, he touches them. What I want us to see is that, like, that's what's going to move us. Is compassion, not excitement, not fad. No, it's having compassion, having that down gut, like, man, I know that this person they're dealing with this, and I can't do anything, but I know one who can. That compassion is what's going to move. And we're going to see in the weeks to come that the compassion in which Jesus has here, we see that he moves us into the statement that the harvest is plentiful. Fact of the matter is, you don't need to go look for lost people. They're all around us. He goes in his compassion, not only is he going to say the harvest is plentiful, he's going to say, pray. Do something about it. And then go out into the harvest. Enter into the harvest. He's actually going to send his 12 out into the harvest. What we see is the mission, this mission that we have as Christians. This mission was born out of this gut-wrenching compassion that Jesus has. It's not a strategy. All right, here's 5 tips for evangelism. Number 1, do it. Number 2, do it. Number 3, 4, 5, and 6, all the same. I always add another one in there for you, Greg. But it's understanding that it's not a strategy and it's not guilt. Remember, I'm not trying to make anybody feel guilty. What I want us to do is I want us to have that stirred up compassion inside of us. I don't want us just to look at people or even, I got to be a little bit closer. No, because we saw what the Pharisees did. They looked at people and they were disgusted. Jesus looked at people and he was, for lack of better words, he was gutted. And Jesus wasn't moved because like he'd been in their shoes. That's not why Jesus is moved. That should be why we're moved. And we'll talk about that a little more in a second. But Jesus was never a sheep without a shepherd. What he was and what he is he's the shepherd who rescues. He knows and he sees and he understands those who need to be rescued. He was moved because of the fact that that's who God is. God's a missionary God. God is I'm going to search for myself and find my sheep. So understand that the compassion that Jesus has here, compassion isn't something that God developed. It's something that God is. Like, that's part of his nature. The Pharisees looked at the same people. They just tried to put them in different categories. Well, this one's in this way, this one. No. The problem with the Pharisees is they were looking at the people and saying, well, I'm glad I'm not like them. No, they didn't see themselves in that field. Well, and I think that's where we really got to just let our hearts settle. It's like we all were in that field. We all were in that crowd. We all were at one time in our life, whether it's, well, I grew up in church. Well, when you were itty bitty, you were like a little baby lamb without a shepherd. Or whether you're big, tall, and studly, I don't know. If you don't know Jesus, you're a sheep without a shepherd. You're in the field. I know that we know people that are in the field. Now, when we say this, it's like, well, how do we end up with Jesus' eyes so we can see people like Jesus saw them? Well, again, I'm going to hit it again. It's not about trying harder. Well, I just got to try harder. I got to grit my teeth and I got to go. If I just white knuckle it, if I just perform better. No. Because we don't generate compassion. Actually, we receive compassion. So we receive it, and when we receive it, we are then to pass it on. If we are children, if we are sons and daughters of the King, we have received compassion. But are we giving that out? Are we passing that compassion on? Do you remember being in the field? Now, I don't want you to I got to have a flashback here, and I don't like going to these. Oh, it makes me feel uncomfortable. No. All I'm asking is do you remember what it felt like to be in the field, a sheep without a shepherd, harassed, torn up by sin that has been done to you, and by the sin that you choose to do? Do you remember that? And then do you remember someone coming looking for you? You remember Jesus coming to the village. You remember Jesus getting dust on his feet. You remember him crossing the distance to get to you. John 10 says that the good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. We were there. We were there, but he went to the cross and laid down his life for us so that we could have a shepherd. That we don't have to be sheep without a shepherd. So understand that if we get over, and I hate using that term, but if we get over or get past, that's my past. My past is in the past, Hakuna Matata. Well, no. I'm not saying we're identified or we live by the past, but we should always remember where we came from. We should remember the grace of God that we experience when we were set free from sin. Why? I thought we were supposed to leave that all behind. I'm not saying drag it along. I'm saying remember how good it is, how good God is that we've been freed from that we've been saved into this new family, that I have new life in Him. Like, we need to remember that. Why? Because if we get over it, then we're never going to be motivated to want to explain or tell people about what God is doing in our lives. Then we'll be a church waiting. I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that there's a lot of you in this crowd right now that would say, wait a second, I'm still out in the crowd. Maybe there is, I don't know. If that's you. Or maybe you're thinking, yeah, I have a shepherd, but man, my shepherd doesn't like me right now because I've done some stupid things. Either way, what we have to understand is that Jesus is not disgusted with you. You might be disgusted with you. You might, I can't believe I did this. No. God knew everything. Like, God knows that you cussed out your wife on the way to church this morning. He knows it. No one else knows it, but He knows it. God knows that, man, you smacked your puppy dog or kicked your cat or something. I mean, whatever. No, God knows it. It's not, there's not this idea, and please, we never, we as blood-bought, forgiven children of God, we should continually remember and then remind and communicate to others, like, you don't have to fix yourself before you come to Jesus. It's not about fixing. How about this? Sheep don't do the rescuing either. There is not anywhere where it's that we have to think, well, God is lost and we need to find Him. I know that that's kind of one of those colloquialisms or whatever those things, or idioms or whatever those things are, where we say it, but it doesn't really mean what it means. No, but too many people say, my life was a wreck until I found God. God's not lost. He found you. Why? Because you're lost. And remember how it felt when He found you. Remember the peace that came. Remember the hope and the joy that followed. Like, that's what Jesus, when he saw these people, was like, they don't have that. I don't want us to walk out of here with a task. Please don't hear that here's a task in which you got to do. Because if I tell you, okay, here's what you got to do. Here's the task. Make sure you have more compassion, Dan. We all know Dan, he's the worst. Go to old Pastor Dan. No. It's not go do more. No. Because it doesn't matter who I tell. It doesn't matter. And if I tell myself this in the mirror, here's a task. Well, I'll grit my teeth on Monday, maybe even Tuesday, but by Thursday I forgot it. And then next Sunday when I show up, it's going to be like, oh, crap. None of y'all would do that. I know that. But understand that Jesus didn't see these people just because He was trying hard. He saw them because of who He is. Yeah, you're not going to be Jesus. I'm not saying that, no, but you can remember what it felt like when you were found. We have to ask the question. And this is something I would want you to do this week. Just a simple prayer. You don't even have to write this down. I think you'll figure this out real quick. Jesus, let me see people the way you see them. Simple prayer. Now I'm not saying pray that, oh crap, I didn't pray that. Well, next Sunday you're walking in the door, oh shoot, Jesus, help me see people the way you see them. And then you walk in the church doors out here and somebody asks you, hey, you praying that? Oh yeah, man, I pray it. Matter of fact, I just prayed it for the first time just a minute ago. No, pray this prayer every day. Don't ask to be nicer. Y'all are nice peoples. Well, some of you are. But it's not asking God, it's not asking Him, God, just make me nicer. No, because the way in which God's going to make you nicer is the same way God gives you patience. Oh, don't ask for that. But what you need to do is ask God to let you see people the way in which He sees them. Not asking to be nicer, but asking God to change what registers. When you look at someone, you want to ask them, what's your name? Like, what's going on? Like, you want to ask God to make someone visible. Someone who stood in front of you many of times. Now, some of you are like, why do that? Okay, that's great. So you do. For the rest of us who need to pray this prayer more, understand this is a very dangerous prayer. Because when you ask God to let you see people the way in which He sees people, and He does, you can't unsee them. And at that point, you got to do something. Now, I'm not saying like, oh, at that point you have to share the gospel with them, or at that point you have to invite them to church, or at that point you got to do this. I'm not saying that. At that point, you got to, if you're asking God to reveal to you, to show people, and to see people like He does, there's a purpose behind that. You got to then do what He tells you to do. It's dangerous. Maybe some of you are sitting here and you already know somebody like somebody has popped up in your head as we've been talking about this. You have a name. Maybe you do know a name, but you don't know the story or the life that goes behind that. Now, it's not a prayer to fix them. Don't say, God, Sally's on crack, and can you help her? God, save her. No, those things is what we want, but God made it abundantly clear that we are His instruments. You will be my witnesses. When power is bestowed upon you, you will receive power to be my witnesses. Why? So that when we see the crowds, when it says, when Jesus saw the crowds, He had compassion for them. That power, that Holy Spirit working inside of us is what is going to stir us, going to remind us. The problem is that we kind of push Him aside. Oh, I don't like that feeling. Oh, wait a second, that's going to be uncomfortable. Dynamite goes boom, right? Yeah, okay. We do know what dynamite is, right? It's dangerous. It's explosive. But it's powerful, and it has purpose. Pray that prayer. Jesus, just let me see people the way in which you see them. And then just be open to, okay, what am I supposed to do with that? Why even pray that? Why? Because He did it for you. Right? We were sheep without a shepherd. He identified that. He came running for us. He died for us. Too often we want to okay, yeah, I'm going to take Christianity and make it part of my life. No. It's not about making Christianity part of your life. It's about Christ being your life. For me to live is Christ and to die is gain. We should be stirred up. We should have a knot that forms in our stomach that drives us to, oh man, that hurt, that pain, but no, that compassion for individuals. With that, Zach, get the boys, rally the band. Next week we'll get into, the harvest is plentiful. So this week what I really wanted us to accomplish, I hope we've seen it, but just to see the harvest. It's all around us. All around us. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Let's pray. Father God in heaven, Lord, we thank you for the day. We thank you for who you are, God. We thank you for, passages like this that remind us to remember and just how great you are, that how we were lost, but you found us. God, let us not get past that. Let us not just think that, it's cool, I go to church, I'm a Christian. No, but let it drive us. When I say it, let that foundness that we have, because we've been found by you. Let that stir in us to want to see people like you see them, so that we can share what you've done in our lives. When it says that you'll be my witnesses, that's that testimony. So we can share our testimony with them. So we can testify about our experience with you to them, and then let you work in them. God, we ask as we go that we don't just let this stuff go in one ear and out the other, but we actually do take to heart what you've taken the time to write down for us. So, God, in it all, we don't want just a task to do. What we want is we want to be changed from the inside. We want to be changed from the inside, because you are the great I am. So, God, we thank you for who you are, and we thank you for what you're doing. And, God, we ask that you grow that compassion in us so that we can see growth, that we do see our church grow, but not for attendance sake, but for kingdom expansion's sake. The gospel of the kingdom being proclaimed. The healing of diseases and afflictions being exercised. God, just to see you working, so people can have hope amidst a world that is truly hopeless. So God, we thank you. Lord, we love you, and we pray this all in your name, Jesus. And all God's people said,